Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered, a destination for all of you to track the SEC top to bottom. And while Florida was an embarrassment against Miami in week 1 in what was supposed to be a close game, I think that the embarrassment for this conference is Auburn's performance last week against Cal. Not just from a football standpoint, but from the standpoint that we've got this Cal school where we think of Cal being more concerned with a lot of other things besides football, having a dwindling, non-existent fan base, playing in front of nobody on the West Coast, and now having to play in this, out of place league where they're traveling across the country constantly to play their games. And they show up at what's supposed to be one of the most difficult places to play in all of college football against an Auburn team that got a lot of buzz during the offseason as, wow, this could be Hugh Freeze' second year, gets the passing game together, and they break through. And Cal beat them by a touchdown, but I don't even know if the game was that close.
It wasn't. And I'll tell you this, Payton Thorne, I can't for the life of me, Mark, understand why Hugh Freeze has hitched his wagon to Payton Thorne. I think it is very obvious right now what needs to be done. At some point, you just know what you have, Mark. And I'm not saying that Payton Thorne is going to be as bad as he was Saturday against Cal the entire season, but that's his floor. And I think what's scary, Mark, is to know that each Saturday you might get that version of him. And it's going to hold Auburn back from reaching their ceiling this season. So, listen, they've got New Mexico this week. They're going to win the football game, but I'll be curious, do we see Hank Brown? Do we see Hugh Freeze at minimum get Hank Brown in the football game, get him ready for SEC play? Because I don't think just hitching the wagon to Payton Thorne and riding him out is the way to go. 4 interceptions in the game against Cal. There were other problems defensively. I thought they were a little bit sloppy, obviously in the open field tackling, what have you, but nobody, Mark, and I mean nobody, saw that coming. I talked to Auburn people last week. They scoffed at the idea they could lose that game. Really, truly. The conversation was, will they cover? The conversation was never, is Auburn going to win? So, very humbling for the Tigers, for sure. It's funny, Mark, in the preseason, I picked Arkansas to beat Auburn in Jordan-Hare, and I was labeled a crazy person for that. And if those two teams played this week, and maybe when we talk about that game next week, I think there's going to be some out there that are picking the Hogs. So, there wasn't a more disappointing team, arguably in all of college football, than Auburn in week 2. A team with such high expectations. Many were expecting 8+ wins. And, now you find yourself behind the 8 ball and you got a quarterback I don't know that this fan base trusts. And I don't blame them because I don't trust Payton Thorne either.
This was such a deep quarterback class in the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. And with these coaches making so much money, Hugh Freeze included, that's one of the things that they are paid to do, is to be able to evaluate their quarterback room and say, we've got the guy here, or we need to go get the guy. And I think Michigan missed it. Clemson may have missed it, although that's not what they do, of course, go to the transfer portal. And Auburn missed it in regards to looking at the likes of Cam Ward, KJ Jefferson, Will Rogers, all sorts of guys, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, tons of guys switched teams, and Auburn just stayed pat.
Yeah, it just, again, I heard a lot of people say this offseason, Mark, that Auburn was more than a quarterback away. Well, I understand that. You're more than a quarterback away from competing for the college football playoff. You're maybe not more than a quarterback away from competing for 8 or 9 wins. And every win matters. Year 2 of Hugh Freeze's tenure. So I, for the life of me, don't understand it. It was a risk, obviously, by Hugh Freeze. He's taken over the offense this year, and you felt like, well, if there's anybody that can get the most out of this kid, it's going to be Hugh Freeze. And the way they upgraded, Mark, the wide receiver position, it kind of made you feel like that maybe there was hope there. But at some point, man, people show you who they are, and it's your job to believe them when they show you. And Payton Thorne has shown you who he is. So there were options out there. I don't know why they didn't make any moves and go out and get a quarterback, and they're kind of having to pay for it right now.
All right, Chris, appreciate you being here as always. Everybody catch Chris at SEC Unfiltered. Chris, thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. It's always a pleasure anytime. I really love doing this, and looking forward to another entertaining weekend of SEC and college football for sure.